Hey, we are back. We are back for our next live, which is right now. Um, I am Carolyn Freyer-Jones. If you are brand new, this is my colleague, faculty member, and director of the school, Johnny Roman. Johnny, good to see you again.
Of course, good. Great to be here.
Yeah. And if you are here, let us know in the comments, right? Oh, there we go. There's Ian. Hey, Ian, it's good to see you. See you. I know that's not true. See your words on. um, so we are here today to talk about leadership in enrollment, handling your inner dialogue and mastering your conversations. So Johnny and I have been going back and forth this week in conversation about what that means to us, what's useful, what's not. And, before we get into that, I want to keep up our theme of the would you rather questions because I just like them and I think they're fun. So we're gonna give you the question: would you rather control the weather or talk to ghosts? Now, Johnny, of course, made it clear to me like there's an assumption in there that there are ghosts, and I said yes, Johnny, that is an assumption. Hey, Sam. So, Johnny, what is your answer? Would you rather control the weather or talk to ghosts? Assuming ghosts
Ghosts are real. Yeah, they're just so different. I'm probably gonna choose the ghosts
I'm choosing ghosts.
because it would just be interesting.
Yeah. There's a whole other conversation happening in my brain called Johnny, no ghosts. Like you're unclear on whether there's ghosts. Hey, Julie, we're glad you're here. So I had a backup question, which the director, John Jones, said, don't use that one, but I still want to say it. Amy, talk to ghosts. All right, Ian, what is it? Sam, it was, would you rather be in maximum security prison for 10 years or in a coma for 2 years? So maximum security prison for 10 years, coma for 2 years. I realize that's not a delicate question. It is gentler to talk about controlling the weather or talking to ghosts. See, Amy would rather talk to ghosts. There we go. So we're all in talk to ghosts versus control. And that's coming from you, Johnny, in Duluth, Minnesota, that you would rather talk to ghosts than control the weather. See, Julie is control the weather. Melody is talk to ghosts. Thank you. So here we are. And you don't have to answer the question. Everybody, I just want you to know, you do not need to answer the question, maximum security prison for 10 years or 2 years
or
in a
coma.
Yeah, you don't have to. We had a big, my husband was like, easy, coma, 2 years and I'm out. Right. And Johnny was like, well, wait a second, though. That means you're not experiencing anything. You're kind of, what if you could hear everything? These are deep questions. I think enrollment is easier, believe it or not, than deciding on maximum security prison or a coma. So there you go.
I agree.
All right. Ian, weather, San Diego all year long. That's funny. Of course, because you're in Philadelphia. Coma. Amy chose coma.
Okay, interesting.
All right. Glad to hear it, Amy. We obviously deflect. We don't want coma. We don't want maximum security prison. All right. So everyone can post their answers as we're doing this if you want, and we will get down to business. And Johnny and I agreed that the first thing we're going to talk about is what is leadership in the context of professional coaching, right? Because leadership in different contexts can mean different things, right? So I'll share a little bit, and then Johnny, if you're willing to share, to me, leadership as a professional coach, my context is the first and primary job of a leader is to inspire, right? It's to inspire. And I hold that to be true as a professional coach. The other thing as a professional coach, from my point of view, as a leader, is to create a container that has safety, that has trust, and that it creates context. So we're in charge of creating context in our conversations. We're in charge of creating the container. We're co-creating it with someone. And ultimately, we're in charge of the let's call it the basics of the container: starting on time, finishing on time, leading the conversation in the sense that the person across from us has a sense of what's going to happen. They have a sense that we know what we're doing, even if we're faking it, right? I really mean that, because in the beginning, a lot of times we're like, I don't know what I'm doing. That's okay. We want to occur like we know what we're doing, right? It's okay to be awkward. It's okay to be a little bumpy. And ultimately, we want the person across from us to go, oh, they know how to lead me through this conversation, right? They know how to do that, even if we're just barely there, right? So our job is to create the container, create a sense of safety, and really, ultimately, as a leader, as a coach, we are creating and co-creating the opportunities for transformation. We can't control transformation, right? Because if someone is not able to go there, we can't make them. But we are responsible for the questions we ask, for the ways we're being with the other person, right? We are responsible if our stuff leaks into the conversation. That's all about leadership. Johnny, let's hear from you on this.
Yeah. I mean, I learned about this idea of leadership and enrollment when I was a student at the CFJ school, my first year. And I found it to be really valuable conversation and an idea. And this sort of idea of like, in a way, people want to know that you've got this on some level. They want to know that sometimes it can feel a little strange or uncomfortable, or like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing in this conversation. Not most people, I would say, that aren't coaches don't have as deep an understanding of coaching, the context of coaching, et cetera, that we do. And so it can feel like new territory. And that can feel uncomfortable. It can feel strange or confusing or whatever the case may be. Like at a minimum, it's like, what are we doing here? I don't even know what we're doing here. And so just learning that if I can create clarity, if I can create context, like, I'll say, can I create some context for our conversation today? I get curious, like, have they ever worked with a coach before? I want to understand what's their relationship with this kind of work. Are they brand new? Is this totally new to them? And part of this, to your point, Carolyn, is about creating that safety. It's about creating that level of comfort, that feeling on their side of like, oh, okay, he's done this before, or he's got me. Like, I'm safe in this container. I can trust it. And part of that is helping to relax them. And part of my own leadership is relaxing myself, so that all of this is being delivered from a more relaxed place. That could also look like clear guidance on what next steps are. Especially if like we're moving from one conversation to a second one. And so that there's like just a lot of clarity. Clarity helps so much. And so I have learned that this idea of bringing leadership and being more in my leadership so that I am clear. I could, directive is not really the right word. And in a way, it's like directive, but not in a pushy or manipulative way. It's just from a clear way.
That's right. That's right.
And that I have found to make a huge difference in enrollment conversations.
So one of the things, first of all, I have to comment on Emily. She chose maximum security prison because she said she'll talk to people and enroll them. So that's like
impressive.
Move, right?
Growing a coaching business inside of a maximum security prison.
Like, I'm creating clients wherever I go. So bravo to you, Emily. You are clearly
for cigarettes and Tootsie Rolls.
Cigarettes and Tootsie Rolls, man. That's it. Ghosts and coma. And Roberto, we are glad you're here. So one of the things, and our fantastic assistant director is here. She's gonna post this in the comments on LinkedIn and Facebook. We have a handout on leadership as a professional coach. So she will give that to you, because the thing that many, from my point of view, coaches, even ones who call themselves leadership coaches, it's like they haven't really looked at where they're showing up inside in the conversation, right? So enrollment conversations have two components. There's what we're doing outside and there's what we're doing inside, and the influence that has on a conversation. So if I show up to my enrollment conversation and I am wobbly inside, I'm more focused on, oh my God, I really need this money. Oh my God, I'm scared. Uh-oh, do I know what I'm doing? If I have that kind of thinking, if you're into conscious leadership, it would equal I'm below the line, right? It's like that is going to feed into my conversation. So our first job as a professional coach is to prepare inside before an enrollment conversation. It's like what Johnny was talking about. I want to show up relaxed as I can, right? You know, there's a spectrum. It's like in the beginning, I was less relaxed and now I'm much more relaxed. But I did the work where I was like, okay, can I calm myself down? For me, that looked like also, right? So I center myself in myself, ask for spiritual
Uh-oh.
things. One of the biggest things I did early on, I hope you're all seeing me because my camera
Yeah,
went bye-bye.
there's a little
Johnny, are you here?
There's a little choppiness, Carolyn. You're
All right.
chopping in and out.
Okay. I think I'm back. So I will say this again. So one of the things that I would do in the beginning of enrollment conversations before the person showed up physically or on Zoom is I would just ask that for the highest good, if this person is meant to become my client, great. And if they're not, all good, right? It's like I put it in spirit's hands. That's my practice. You can have a different practice. You may not have a spiritual practice. That's 100% okay. You want to have a system. We'll go back to what we talked about last week. You want to have a system of what do you do to prepare yourself inside prior to an enrollment conversation. Now, it can all go bust. It can get messy. I'm not saying it never happens, but first and foremost, what are you doing to prepare yourself inside? So, because ultimately we want to show up totally present. We want to know what we're doing. We want to be relaxed. We want to be with the person, and any thoughts of ours about ourselves are gone. They are outside the room. Johnny, do you want to talk a little bit more about that? And I'm going to read Sam's question while you do that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak enough on the value of the inner and working with my inner self. I have a similar centering process. You know, there are times where I'll feel stressed going into a conversation, or I'll feel clingy, or there's this part of me that is attached to the outcome because I want, you know, the sale, I want the money, I want the client, et cetera. Like those thoughts will come into my consciousness and my awareness. And I know that when those thoughts are present, I am much less present with the person. Like when they're present in my mind, I'm much more distracted. I have less access to my intuition. I have less access to my connection and being connected with this person. And my outer, it could be tainted. It's like hard, you know, sometimes it's like, did I ask that question because it's from service or because I want to lead or guide in some way? Or am I feeling clingy to them in some way because my inner isn't fully clear? So I will center myself similar. And I have a process that I learned from the University of Santa Monica. I center myself in my authentic self. And I'll say this out loud. I'll invoke my inner guidance. And then I'll set an intention. And the intention is usually around to truly be of service, to really be connected, to be in my loving, et cetera. And then I'll ask for guidance and assistance. And any time that after I center myself, if any sort of other thoughts come in around, you know, I really want this as a client, or any insecurity, or if there's clinginess or attachment, et cetera, it helps me come back to, no, my intention is to be of service. And just to like name that is so helpful for me to kind of bring myself back to presence, to be with the person and to be connected to service. And I have found that to be very useful and helpful for me.
I think that, I mean, Johnny, I do my own version of that. We just talked about that. And I want to say something, right? You don't have to do anything like what Johnny and I are doing. And you want your own system, right? It could be deep breathing. It could be anything. It could be lighting a candle and just asking, like just quieting your mind. You could do breathing exercises. You could do 20 jumping jacks and then sit down, right? Not if they're there with you live, that would be weird. However, there's so many things you can do to slow yourself down. And you can literally just be like, my intention is that my thinking about me, my wants, my needs, my preferences are outside the door. And I am 100% in service to this person. My only job right now is to serve them to the greatest of my ability, whatever that is right now. And Sam, I want to answer your question. You're 100% accurate. I think when you set it up, right, you want to, so we can start to get into this. One of the things that's important when you're at the beginning of an enrollment conversation is to say, so listen, we have 90 minutes, whatever your timeline is. And I'm going to take you through a process that I do. And it's going to feel different than a regular conversation, right? This is not a regular conversation. You and I are about to have a coaching conversation or a coaching inquiry. If you're doing the gap, and we'll talk about that, right? It's like, if we're doing a gap, I might say, we're going to do a coaching inquiry. It might have a little bit of coaching in it. And this is going to be a process. So I'm going to take us through it. I'm going to be asking you questions. And then Sam, I might be like, and if there's an opportunity, if it seems like we're getting like side railed, do I have permission to pause you? If you're in the middle of something and I'm like, oh, I want to get back to that. Do I have permission to pause you? Right? So 100% Sam. So if you're noticing that in your conversations, at the beginning, they're getting into storytelling, I'm sort of falling out of leadership and we're getting off track, both in terms of what we're up to and our time. Absolutely. And set it up at the beginning. That's part of us as leaders, creating context, right? We want to be like, another one that I use is like, look, if I ask you a question that's too much for you, will you let me know? Like, you have permission to be like, no, sorry, I'm not going to answer that one. Those can all create context for, this is a different thing. We're going to be in a different conversation, right? So that's really important. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Sam. Johnny and I agreed that we would give you some of our own stories around like enrollment gone bad. Let's call it enrollment gone bad. And Johnny, do you want to start us out with some enrollment got bad, your internal stuff leaked into the room?
Yeah. So one story that came to mind when I was thinking about this, I had been in a group with a number of people leading the group. And then I had offered a one-on-one conversation to anybody in the group at the end. And in my mind, I wanted there to be a sort of enrollment context, and I didn't exactly broadcast that. I didn't say that. The intention was to be of service and to offer some value. And so what that did was it created confusion inside of me, where it's like, wait, is this an enrollment conversation or is this a coaching conversation? And that confusion alone created conflict and kind of got me a little miscombobulated. And then, I was working with him. I just had, in this case, an hour with him, and I was, coaching and things like that. And I noticed as we were getting close to the end, there was no context of enrollment. I hadn't set it up properly. And so, there's this thing running in the back of my mind, and that like, okay, like if something's going to happen, I got to do something differently. And I noticed myself start like when that like grippy, attachy energy is coming forward, or like, I want, to steer this in a particular direction. It takes me out of, being warm and open and connected. And I notice myself, I can start getting pushy, or my energy can get more intense and rise up. And that started to happen a little bit. And, I wasn't like aggressive or anything like that. And it was different. The energy was very different than how I normally show up. And I didn't feel very good about it. The conversation didn't go anywhere, obviously. And I think back on that moment and I still cringe a little, because that is not how I want to show up. It is sort of me below the line, and sort of my reactive, like wanting something from a conversation and then seeing or feeling it, quote unquote, slip away, and like chasing that thing, which did not feel good. And so, I've noticed that at times show up for me when I'm not grounded, when I'm not centered, when I'm not connected to my intention, when I haven't created clear context, when it's murky and muddy for them and for me. Then, more sort of behaviors can show up that are antithetical to like the outcome that I'm after, and actually push them away when I'm really not wanting that to be the case.
Yeah. I think it's so important, and feel free, right? Post in the comments if you're like, what do you notice shows up for you when, like, what are the thoughts? What are I like to call them, like they're corroded thoughts, right? Like the thoughts that show up when we drop out of service, because all thoughts are felt, right? When we're in a room with someone. So if I'm starting to be like, oh, damn, I feels like I really need to pay my rent this month. Boy, I'm hoping this is going to work out, right? That comes into the room. So we want to hear from you. Like, what do you notice? And do you have a system for before an enrollment conversation begins to center yourself in service to the other person, in the inquiry, right? Because our only job in an enrollment conversation is to discover, is there a project that this person could use assistance with? And is your coaching the best solution for that, right? I go in with an assumption called, I don't know if my coaching is the best solution for what's going on with this person. I don't assume it. I don't pretend that, like, of course, anything going on with you, I am the answer to that. What is happening, I can make the difference in your life. I don't go in with that. And neither does Steve Chandler. I mean, Steve Chandler to me is such the ultimate of service. Like, what makes you think coaching would be of service right now? I don't know if I could help you. I have seen Steve over the years, over and over, be in a conversation with someone and they're like wanting to talk to him. And he'll say, I don't know if I can help you. We can set up time to talk about it, but I don't know. And he means it. He really means it. So I offer that. And Susan, I see your response there. I am out of service if I am focused on me and my outcomes versus them. Right? I am out of service if I am focused on me and my outcomes versus them. I will share that I have been in conversations in particular, and I know, Johnny, you've had this too. It's like, it's really natural in the first couple of years when we're meeting with someone who we perceive is significant. They're an executive. They're somebody with a title, right? If we associate titles with meaning and significance, which all of us can fall into the trap on, I might be like, ooh, this person is somebody. And, I start to inflate them, and then I make myself less than. And I'm like, ooh, do I know how to serve this person? Will they know that I remember I once said to Steve, like back when we were in our first home, which was a rental, I would meet with people literally at our kitchen table. And I was like, and it was a tiny house. And I was like, Steve, I don't know, like I'm about to meet somebody I was meeting with who clearly had achievement. They clearly had reached a certain amount of wealth. And I was like, I'm really going to meet with them at my kitchen table. And Steve was like, don't even, he's like, Carolyn, you have no idea how much people will see you and they'll be like, I want the simplicity of that life. Your kitchen table can be the best spot in the universe to have a deep conversation. And that's for all of us, right? Wherever we are, right? Because it's so easy to fall out of, oh my gosh, I don't have the right XYZ, the right home, the right clothing, the right whatever, the right experience. And it's like, if you can slow yourself down, create context, and ask good questions, so much can happen. Oh, Johnny, you have a question from our friend Diana Totter like water. Johnny Roman, what would you have done or said differently? And earlier in the conversation, you mentioned to not have a shift in a way that felt out of alignment for you and possibly them?
I probably would have set it up a little bit differently. Like at the beginning, I probably would have said, so, the intention here is to create value for you. And, I'm aware that, our group session is coming to completion, and, there may be something that comes up in our conversation that could be interesting as a sort of continuation of the work that you're doing, or so, a version of that, like some kind of just creating some, even if it's loose context, that like the possibility is on the table, or simply a curiosity, like, have you considered your options for now that the group is coming to completion? What could be next for you? And maybe, our conversation can look at that, and there may be nothing, and we may be totally complete at the end, and that's fine. But it's just like having, in a way, I think part of me wanted to say that, and instead it sort of lived. I don't even know if I was totally conscious of it. Not certainly not enough to like say it out loud. And so it sort of sat there and felt a little subversive inside of me, like, oh, I've one stated intention, and then there's this other one underneath. And so just kind of getting it out there, some kind of a context at the beginning that would have allowed space and not felt like, oh, there's this other thing out there, this other piece, that I want, and so that it wasn't pulling me away. And it was right there it could have been right there in the conversation. So so that's what comes to mind for me, Diana.
It's a great answer and a great question, Diana. Thank you. Roberta, I want to answer your question. You say, is it not discouraging to say to the person, I don't know if I can help you? Let's talk about it. How to support while saying this, how to take care of them while saying this. It's a really good question, Roberta. And to me, I don't think it's discouraging. I think it's actually an act of humility to say, hey, this is more when I'm in the connecting and creating a conversation, right? If someone's like, oh, it would be so great to talk to you. I'll say, well, this is if someone's coming towards me. It's a little different if I'm creating the conversation, but if they're coming towards me and they go, oh, I really want to talk to you. I was like, tell me more. Like, what makes you think I could help you? Right. And then they share, and I haven't had a long conversation with them yet. I am absolutely going to say, like, look, let's put time on the calendar. I don't know if I could help you. I might be able to, and we'll discover that together inside a conversation, right? Inside of a conversation. So in a way, to me, it's a statement of humility. I'm not assuming I can help you. I might think I can, and I'm happy to say that, right? I'll say, hey, I think I can help you, but I don't really know till we have some conversations. So Roberta, let me know if that's helpful. And again, that's when someone's coming towards me. I don't want to assume it. Like, I'll be like, oh, if they're like, well, I'm having this challenge and they're telling me, and I might say, look, I've helped people with this kind of thing, and let's slow down and have a conversation, because I want to see if I can really help you with this. I think I can, and let's find out. And I think I've never had anyone feel like, oh, does that mean Carolyn's not got her act together, right? It's like, no, I'm saying, like, we won't know until we're deep inside a conversation, right? So I always want to be sending them. I don't want to be assuming, and I don't want to occur like I'm assuming, right? I don't want to occur like I'm assuming, like, oh, I can help everyone all the time, right? So one thing I want to mention, and Johnny's going to come back in a moment, is that if you already have, we have 2 videos that we use with coaches in the school, and we give them out wherever anybody wants them. So I have a gap video. It's called the gap video. And if you want that, you can either email me or Johnny. And Johnny has one that's like the gap 2.0. Is that what it's called, Johnny?
It's an inquiry into the gap.
An inquiry into the gap. So they're both about 35 minutes long. Johnny's is actually from a call in the school. If you want those, like, send email directly to you. I think Ashley can put them also maybe in the chats, the actual videos in the chats on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And if she can't, just email us. They are well worth your time. And I say that because the gap is a tool to do in the first conversation or the second. I like the first. Some people wait for the second, but it helps you set up what's going on in your life. Where are the gaps? And when there's a gap, can coaching with me help you fill the gap? Okay. So I want to say that so that you're aware, like, and you're going to see, we developed a handout just for this live. We're not going to use it in detail. You can email us to request it and we'll show it to you at the end. It's long. It's like 4 pages. It's all about the inner and outer of enrollment. And the gap is, to me, part of your enrollment process. When coaches come to the school, I'm always like, are you using the gap? And then of course we always discover that 3 months in, someone's like, I'm not using it yet. And we're like, why? Just use it. Try it. It's a tool. Especially if you're a newer coach, it gives you a structure for those first conversations of discovery. So I want to take Alex's question. What's your advice on leading after the conversation? I find that clients often aren't ready to decide yes or no at the end of the call, even with coaching around why, which is totally fine. Sometimes I lead us to put a short check-in call on our calendars for a week out. But other times it's open-ended because they want to talk to other coaches or check references or whatever. So Alex, it's a great question. Johnny will share how he handles this. I will share how I handle this. So to me, one thing to be thinking about, and Alex, I'm making an assumption. Let us know in the chat if this is not accurate. This is after you've had 2 or 3 long conversations, right? So this is after a good amount of time together. This is after, like, this is not a rushed thing at the end of one conversation. So after 2 or 3 conversations, I am sending a long email that acknowledges them, that highlights the opportunities I see. It might have a resource at the end of it. I want that email to feel like, wow, that Carolyn saw me. She really understands what I'm looking at, what my project is, what I'm facing, whether it's a challenge or a new thing I'm creating. And Alex, I want to be clear. There is nothing in there about, and when, you tell me you're working with me, or it's really like, it's a gift at the end of the calls where if I were to go back and read it, if I was the person, I'd be like, wow, they really heard me. Like, I want to acknowledge that they did work in our conversations, if there was deep work done. And I may be sending an email like that in between all the conversations, right? A highlight, an acknowledgement, a resource. And then at the very end, if they're in their exploration of other coaches, this is what I often say. That's news I can't use. I don't care if they're looking at other coaches because those coaches are not me. We are markets of one. I really want to highlight that. You are each a market of one. Nobody can do what you do. Nobody can do what Susan does. Nobody can do what Johnny does or Roberta, right? Nobody can do what each of us can do. So I am a market of one. My fees are based on my own results, expertise, ability to create transformation. I don't really care what other coaches are charging out in the world. I mean, it's interesting, but it does not matter. So that's what I'm doing after. So, and the other thing to think about, Alex, is I'm acting as if they are going to work with me. So I'm going to send a resource. I'm going to nurture them. And then Johnny, why don't you come and talk a little bit about how you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I've played around with this a lot, Alex. And one of the things that I come back to more often than not is I might ask them. I'll say, like, you can take as much time as you want to make a decision. Like, there's no rush here. If you feel like really sit with this. And one thing that I've found can be helpful is if we put some time to connect and touch base in a week or so. And for some people, they'd rather just have the space. And it's really a matter of what would feel good for you. Because I've seen it where like for me making a decision, I really need to sit with this and I don't like a timeline. And for others, they actually like having some structure around their decision making because life can easily get in the way and sort of pull them away from that. And I find when I explain that and share that and kind of give them the choice, it tends to feel good. And some people say, yeah, I'd really love for us to put some time, or I'd really love some spaciousness. And for me, that it's like, I like that because then there's some clarity. They got to make the decision for themselves. That's in addition to what Carolyn's talking about with follow up with an email, with acknowledging them, resource, all that stuff can be part of that. And just in terms of like how I might close a call or what the post looks like. That is, I have found to be one helpful way of doing that, where there's still some leadership with some clarity around these are kind of like, we can go either way and it's really up to you. That I have found works well and feels good on the receiving end.
Exactly. And the thing I also want to share, and then Julie, I want to talk about your comment. The thing I also want to share, Alex, is that it's like, this is an opportunity to play through, right? It's like, you want to play through. I want to serve someone with high involvement, low attachment, but that doesn't mean I'm passive, right? I'm not passive in that. It's like, okay, I'm going to be thoughtful, right? It's like Steve Chandler will think about like, what is a resource that could really serve them right now in this thing that is happening in their lives, right? And, you know, Steve was my role model. I mean, he's been my coach for 18 plus years, but early on when he was enrolling me and enrolling my business partner, Michelle, it was as if we were the only people in the entire world. Now, he had other clients, he had other people he was nurturing, but Steve's ability, and this is about how do we become masterful at this, that the person you're enrolling feels like they are the only person in your world that you are currently nurturing, serving, tending to. And that's done through communication. That's done through sending an email, sending a resource, right? I don't want to overwhelm someone. I'm not going to email them every day when we've just finished 3 conversations, but they're going to stay in my world, right? Now, Johnny's point is really important. Someone might be like, you know what? You know, like my way of saying that is like, look, there's options here. You can just let me know whenever you want. No urgency on my end. Or we can set a time if it's helpful to you to have like, I'm going to make a clear decision either way in 2 weeks. And we can put time on the calendar to just slow down and talk. And I'm fine either way. I want to be clear. There's no urgency on my end. So I also want to say to all of you, high involvement, low attachment does not equal we are passive, right? We are serving, right? So I want someone to feel the impact of my service without any attachment, And then I want to come back to Julie's point. Is there a project this person can use coaching to support them through? Is coaching with me a valid solution for them? Can I help them? Yes. So that is really—
I want to clarify, Carolyn,
Yeah.
real quick. This was in sort of a second message to her first one.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw that. The further up, she said, I'm realizing that I often have these conversations that are coaching in service, gap conversation, ELI assessment, et cetera, but haven't considered them as enrollment conversations. So then they wrap up and I haven't bridged from service to enrollment. What does that bridge entail while respecting service as my intention?
Thank you, Johnny.
And then she's like, oh, that's it. There's the bridge.
That's the bridge. But also, I always, Julie, want to be like, if I were you and I was doing an assessment, I don't want that to be wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow. If the assessment, like the gap, identified like, oh, this person's having a big challenge at work, right? They are wanting to get a promotion and they're challenged in creating that for themselves. I'm going to be like, hey, so the gap, right? The pie or the assessment pointed out these 2 areas of stuff that you seem like you really want to make a move on. Why don't we have another conversation where we slow down and do some coaching just around that? just around that, or just around these two areas. Maybe there's something with their family and something with work, right? I'm going to be like, wow, so these are the two ones I see. Is this what you see? And they go, yeah, I see that. And I say, look, it's fine with me. Do you want to, I'm willing to book more time. Is that something you'd like to do? Right? So if I discover things in an assessment or a gap, we're going to have at least another 1, 2, maybe 3 more conversations, right? Especially if my fees are $5K and above. I think I've shared this story before, right? I don't know, I'd had 2 or 3 conversations with this guy. The guy actually wanted to, I don't know, he ended up in a conversation with Steve, not to look at Steve for his coach, but something about, he wanted to talk about me, or I don't know how Steve became my reference. Somehow he did in this weird situation. And the guy basically was like, I feel like I should have another conversation with Carolyn. And Steve was like, absolutely. And then Steve, as my coach, was like, hey, this guy wants to talk to you again. And I got a little bit like, really? Like another one? And Steve was like, whoa, wait a second. Since when does having another conversation and the potential of $6,000 not mean anything to you? Like, I was like, oops, right, service. So depending on my fees, right, I'm not going to cut it short, right? If I have a 4th conversation, so be it, right? I'm not going to go on forever. I mean, Lisa Husseini, a faculty member, has shared with coaches in the school. She's like, look, I'll talk to someone for as long as I'm appreciating and enjoying serving them. Like it's meaningful, something's happening. So for Lisa, that could look like 5 or 6 conversations, and she's okay with it, right? Now I want to say, do I want to go on past 6? Probably not. And I don't think Lisa does either, right? So you want to, especially if you're building your practice, it's not where you want to be. You don't want to get caught up in, oh, this is 4 conversations. Now, you also don't want to go on forever, right? So I might say to someone, hey, this is our 4th conversation. This will be our last one, unless we decide we want to partner together formally. So this will be our last one, and we can talk at the end. We may be complete, and that's great, or we can talk about what it would look like. Either way is fine, right? So again, I'm relaxed. I'm relaxed about the whole thing. I'm just relaxed. And if I'm not relaxed, I'm learning how to sound like I'm relaxed. Right? Johnny, I hear Johnny laughing, so I'm going to ask Johnny to come back. I can hear him backstage chuckling. Yeah. So Johnny, right? I mean, is that a real thing? Like, we sometimes practice sounding relaxed before we're truly relaxed.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, all of this is part of the process, and it's part of the practice. And sometimes we fumble our way through, and we do the best we can. And I just find I loved these principles that we're talking about, like high involvement, low attachment, service over selling, all of that stuff just helped me to relax more. And anything that I could find that could help me on the inner. One of Steve Chandler's favorite quotes, or one of his quotes that was really helpful for me, was, I may need money and I don't need this person's money.
Right.
And that just being a reminder of like, okay, yes, I may need money right now. I may need to pay my rent, etc. And if I can remind myself that it's not this person's money that I need, the one that's in front of me, that helps to sort of refocus my intention to, okay, yes, all of that noise may even be true, and my job here is still to be present and engage and coach and be of service to the person in front of me, and quiet that part of me that's saying, well, you have to get the sale, or whatever the case may be, so that I can have the highest potential of actually serving them, which ultimately creates more potential for them becoming a client, not me being pushy or, manipulative or anything like that. And I guess I also want to qualify or clarify that, what we're talking about is leadership in that context, and leadership and service. And so there is also an element of not just being passive and focused on the coaching and only coaching. Like, there is also some leadership around, like, okay, this is what we're doing. And we may have a conversation about working together, we may not, but that's sort of on the table. And part of that can sound like throughout our conversation, dropping a pin out loud saying, if we were to work together, that's something that we might go deeper on, or that I could see as a potential project for us. Starting to sort of create some context that sort of takes this beyond these sort of initial conversations and creating a bigger context of like, there could be more for us on the table, not in a pushy way, just as sort of adding to the clarity. Again, those are things that I have found that works, where we're not just being passive with the coaching. Okay, there's, I don't know that I don't think I've ever done 6 sessions. Like, to me, I usually at around the 2 or 3 mark, there's some clarity, and then maybe I might go beyond that. And dropping those kind of pins in place of like naming, like there's a bigger thing here. There's bigger context. There's bigger projects on the table. It's helpful. That's part of the leadership and creating clarity of beyond like, hey, we're just here having a coaching conversation. We're actually here working to create some meaningful impact for you, your life, your work, whatever the project is.
Yes. And one thing I want to say, Johnny, is I want to answer Sam's question, and then I'm going to ask our director, John Jones. I do want to put up page 2 of the handout in a moment. I want to walk through that. I think it would be really helpful for people, and Johnny and I will talk through it. So Sam, your question is, do you also slow down the answer, as in coach around where they're at in their decision-making? What would be helpful to get clarity before the call ends, coaching around how to make a decision that feels right, regardless of what the outcome is? I so appreciate that question, Sam. And what I want to say to you is I find personally that gets a little dicey, right? Because it's difficult for even a really seasoned long-term coach, even like myself. It can occur as self-serving, right? So I'm not saying it is self-serving, right? Like, so someone's like, okay, yep, I'm going to take a couple weeks. And I say, listen, you can go off on your own. Totally fine. You can just let me know when you're ready. And if it's useful, if anything comes up in your decision-making that you want to slow down on, I'm willing to get on a call if that's useful, right? And sometimes, Sam, what I'll say is part of this, what you're looking at, is this a decision that is including your spouse or your partner or a boss, right? So sometimes that's a valuable question. If they're like, yeah, well, I got to talk to my spouse, right? Like, if I'm going to invest $25K, that's a decision that they would be part of. And I go, excellent. Agreed. You definitely want to talk to your spouse. And I'm always going to bring it back to what's going to occur. You definitely want to talk to your spouse. It is an investment. And the most important thing is that they know you will be different at the end of that process. Like, there's the investment, and are they okay that you will be radically different when that work is complete? And I want to put even that conversation with their spouse in the context of what's going to happen, not the money, right? Like, holy crap, you're going to spend $25K on what? Right? You want to be like, absolutely, that's an important spouse conversation. And can I just offer one thing? You want them to know you're going to be different. Like, are they okay with that? Now, Sam, I won't be like, do you want help with this decision? I won't be like, well, let's break it down. I might be like, look, all good. If it'd be useful, if this is a spouse conversation and it feels tricky, or any part of this, and you want to slow it down, reach out to me and we'll put more time on. So I want to be delicate, because a lot of times coaches are like, well, let me help you coach you around the decision. And so many coaches, it's too challenging for them. They collapse into benefits and proving, and their own wants get in there. So that's what I offer to you, Sam. I'm not saying it can't be done, but like Steve Chandler, you'd never see him be like, well, let me help coach you around this decision. Let's slow it down. He might be like, if there's anything I can do to help, reach out. But it's like, nope, because most of us are working with adults. Most of us are like, I want it to be in their corner. if we can have that page 2 of the handout, John, and then Johnny and I, right. So it's probably hard to see. So we're going to walk you through it. High involvement, low attachment. So you can be dedicated to serving someone and having transformation occur without being attached to whether they say yes. Low attachment, and this is for you, Sam, sounds like there's a lot that can occur here, and I trust your inner guidance, right? I'm certainly going to let them know, look, I'm not going to be passive. I'm going to say to someone, hey, I think there's a lot we could do together. I see so much potential, and I trust you've got this. You know how to make a decision, right? So it doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean avoiding the ask. It doesn't mean pretending that you don't care. It doesn't mean letting someone stay vague, abandoning the conversation because you're uncomfortable. Excuse me. Low attachment means showing up fully, telling the truth as you see it. It's not like there's one truth. It's telling the truth as you see it. Serving generously, offering, letting someone choose, right? So I want to talk about this next part. Johnny, do you want to walk them through this? Do you have this, the coach's leadership responsibility?
Yeah. You are responsible for leading your side of the conversation. This includes showing up, creating clear context for the conversation, which is what we've been talking a lot about, beginning and ending on time, listening and being curious, being present throughout, telling the truth as you see it, as Carolyn was saying, naming what you see. So, we're really, this is the coaching them. This is the coaching them part where we're really pointing to opportunities, to things that we notice, things like that. We're making a clear offering when it's time, and following up and learning from our results. So this is part of the process, right? This is what it means to be in conversation with people. So it's not just, okay, we're getting into a conversation and then coaching them. There's other pieces. We're really being of service. We're sort of, the channel is clear, so to speak. We're being really present and unattached. You are not responsible for controlling their decision, for being liked, for eliminating another person's fear, guaranteeing an outcome, or making every conversation successful. We're responsible for our side of the conversation, not responsible for them making a decision. We're responsible for leading them, for creating clarity and context so that they get to have as close to or as much of an experience of value as possible. And then understanding, if it makes sense and if it is of service, what next steps would look like so that they're guided but held.
Yes.
Not forced,
yes.
Just guided and held in sort of the clearness of it, the service of it.
Now, I think it's really important to slow down, and we want you, this is a great time. If you have questions about any part of the enrollment conversation, the beginning part, the setting of context, the end, like how do I transition out of maybe the end of the gap into what's next, whether I'm offering another conversation or we are going to talk about what it's going to be like to work together. If you have questions, or just even on the inner, just put them in the chat on Facebook or LinkedIn, and we will see them. So what I want to say here is, though, that this is where our, like, what we have dominion over and what we don't have dominion over, right? I have dominion over completing the conversation. I want them to leave the conversation with a good feeling, right? It's like, that does not mean that I'm saying you did great work. I'm not a cheerleader, right? In that context, I'm more like, so I'm either going to be offering another conversation, like, wow, we uncovered a lot. Or let's say we did deep work around these one or two things. I'm going to say, we did a lot and there's more to do here. I'm willing to put more time on. Is that something you'd like to do? And then I'm going to be quiet. And they go, many people, would you really give me more time? I'm like, sure, this is what I do. Like, absolutely. Right. So then they go, oh, okay. And then my job is we don't hang up, or we don't close off the Zoom or leave until that call is on the calendar. I say, get your calendar out. Let's get it right now. Do not be like, I'll send you an email with options. That is a way of abandoning the conversation. So I want to be clear about that, right? Like, my job is to lead them to the next step, whether the next step is another conversation, or whether that is, okay, we've had 5 conversations, we've had 4 conversations, so this is the end. It's been a pleasure serving you. Do you want to talk about a formal next step? You have a project here. That's super clear. And we could make real progress on that. Is this something you want to talk about? Allison, I so appreciate your question. Allison Corazzini, good to see your name. Would love to hear what you look at to learn during your first meeting with a potential client. What I'm going to be looking at is I'm going to do my version of what I call the gap. And Allison, we did put that at our assistant director put that. That's a video you can watch. So I take a person through a process. It's so good to see you. And I go, what are the current islands of your life, right? Like if I created a big pie, what are the slices of your life, right? There's work, maybe there's health and well-being, there's friendship, there's maybe you have a hobby, maybe it's beekeeping, maybe there's like, what are the slices of your life, right? One of the slices in my life and my husband's life is service, right? We have people, places in our lives that we go and be of service to. So I want to find out what that person's pie of their life looks like. Now, Allison, one of the things I'm looking for is, where is there no slice, right? Like if I go through someone's pie and they're like, work, home. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty narrow. Like, do you work out? Do you have friends you see? Nope. This is it. Okay. How is that for you? Right. I'm going to get into the lack maybe of things in their life as much as I'm going to get into the specific pieces that are there. I'm noticing all of it. So that's what I'm doing, right? And then Julie might be doing a very specific kind of coaching assessment she learned. So the gap videos where we take you through that, Ashley put in the chats so you can grab those. Or if you want it, Allison, email me or Johnny and I'll send you it via email because I know you have my email address. If your fees are on the low end, do you still think having several conversations before an enrollment conversation is essential? I'm going to have Johnny come back too with me on this one. So, I want to be specific. If my fees are on the lower end, I'm having still probably 2 or 3 enrollment conversations. So all of it is an enrollment conversation from the first one to the end. Even if I'm doing the gap, for me, it's still all enrollment. All conversations. The only distinction I would make is that if I'm having like a 20-minute connect call where I'm getting to know them, right? Because I may or may not offer a deeper conversation. Do you want to say anything about that, Johnny?
Yeah. Pretty early on in my coaching, my fees were quite low. And my system was 2 conversations, 2 90-minute conversations, enrollment conversations as part of my enrollment process. And rarely did it go beyond that. As my fees started to increase, then sometimes I'd go beyond to a 3rd, rarely to a 4th, and it really depended. But at a minimum, no matter what, I was doing 2 90-minute conversations. And pretty much those 2 conversations were some version of the gap, and then coaching. And because sort of what I've learned over time is there's sort of 3 things that we want to have happen inside of enrollment conversation. We need there to be trust, rapport, connection that gets developed between myself and the potential client. We want to understand the gap, like where they are, what they want. We want there to be some kind of vision and understanding of sort of their world, and then what they want it to look like and how that's different from where it is now, and know what's it a little bit, start to uncover what's in the way. And then we want there to be some kind of a creation of value where there's coaching occurring, so that there's some awareness that starts to occur, some shift that happens in perspective or understanding, or a vision that is exciting to them, something along those lines. And for me, that I could do all of that in two like 90-minute conversations. There was a lot of spaciousness, and that's essentially been where I started, regardless of what my fees were. And I found that to be really valuable. And for me, I kept my fees at a much more accessible rate early on. I think my first 6-month engagement was $2,700 for, I think it was 18 90-minute sessions at the time. So, very robust, significant. And for me, it was important because I wanted to get wins. I wanted people to be able to say yes. And so the slowed down approach to enrollment really helped me with that, even when my fees were on the lower side. And I didn't have a full practice at the time. So I had the spaciousness and time to slow down, and the results were great.
And also, and one of the other reasons to have, 2 or 3 conversations, maybe 4, maybe not, is that you get more practice, right? It's like every conversation is an opportunity to go deeper. So when I was new, right, I wasn't able to maybe create the level of impact in one conversation that I might be able to once we get to the third, right? So now if I have 90 minutes with someone, I can do things that I was not able to do early on. I just have more mastery. I'm more attuned. I'm more willing to take risks. All those things that were not present in my first 1 to 3 years, where I was just like, ooh, I don't know. Do I ask this question? Right? So I might not do that until the second or third conversation. So I want you to have permission to utilize those as a way to also strengthen yourself, right? We're all like on a path to mastery. I still am, right? So it's like, coaching is a mountain with no top. So learning how to be masterful inside of a conversation is a tremendous process over time. Like what I love about this profession, both in enrollment and coaching, which to me are together, they're not separate, right? Enrollment is part of coaching and coaching is part of enrollment. They're not like enrollment, yuck, right? A lot of coaches I talk to, they're like, oh, I just can't wait. I can't wait till I never have to enroll. And referrals just come to me like angels with wings, with money, bags of money attached to their wings that they just drop over my head. The moment I utter a word, they're just saying yes, yes, yes. And there's echoes in the angelic realms of someone saying yes to me. I have news for everyone. Like, that's not happening in my world. I'm pretty sure that's not happening for Johnny. Even the coaches I know at the highest levels of success, you can name them and I'm like, it's not happening. It's not. Even if it looks like it is, that's a misunderstanding in the profession, especially as your fees get higher. So learning to know enrollment, to master it, to become, I love enrollment. And I mean that. I love enrollment because it's a discovery. I don't know what this person's like in front of me. I don't know what's going to happen. Can I be in the spirit of discovery and adventure? We want enrollment. And that's really one of the things that we do in the school. Like, we want enrollment to be fun, to be a path of discovery. I want it to be something that I enjoy. I don't want to do stuff I don't enjoy, right? Sometimes it's a requirement. Like I floss my teeth. Is it the greatest source of enjoyment in my life? No, but it's like building my business is a requirement. Having fun as I build my business, I get to create that all day long, right? I don't get to opt out. And that's one of the challenges we're going to give to you as we move towards the end of this conversation today. It's like, if you're staying out of enrollment, meaning like offering more conversations, inviting, remember, all of our businesses get built through conversation. They may start in a social media post, in a connection. They may start in a DM. Ultimately, we want to end up in a conversation with someone where we take them somewhere, right? People don't spend money on someone who hasn't taken them somewhere where they get a glimpse or even a deep awareness of like, look at what's possible. When I hang out with Johnny Roman, I feel better, I feel different, and I feel like I can make progress on this thing, right? That occurs inside a conversation. So prior to that, I need to be building relationships and creating connections and doing all the things. I want to pause and let Johnny share. I see Elsie has commented. A reframe I learned about enrollment is that it's one of the most powerful conversations you can have with a client, because it is when they potentially say yes to changing their lives. And I love thinking of enrollment in that way now. Absolutely, Elsie. Michelle was like, it's the most powerful place to be. It was her favorite part. Sometimes the deepest coaching took place in enrollment at the beginning, where someone really like broke through to like, I want to make this happen, or I want this to change, or I want this pattern to dissolve. And a coach can be like, if you and I work together, we would handle that pattern. If you and I have a year together, that pattern will be handled. Now, I can say that with confidence. Why? Because I've done that with people. If I have 6 months with someone on a particular pattern, given I know the pattern, whether I've had it in my life or I've worked with someone, I can say that. Do I want a coach who's never done that work? I don't know if I can help that person. I'm not going to make that statement then, right? So enrollment, inner and outer, and enrollment as an activity, that's a requirement. It's all a requirement. Johnny, is there anything you want to share? And then, of course, we still have a little bit of time for another question or two.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what Elsie's pointing to. I love.
I think Johnny is coming back. Did we lose him?
Can you not hear me? Yeah. Sorry. So
I can hear you. I think Johnny. Okay, you bring Johnny up.
So what I was saying is that
I'm going to keep talking because
you can't see me. I
can't see you.
You can't see me. Okay. John has put me.
You. You're live. It's fine.
Yes. Okay. All right. You can hear me though. Yes. Great. We can hear and see Johnny. What the thing that I love is, we talk about this distinction of service over selling, and to Elsie's point there, one of the shifts for me was that I'm not selling someone coaching. I'm enrolling them into their possibility of transformation for themselves. Like, it's really the enrollment of, am I willing to say yes to myself, to this life that I can see there? Like in the gap conversation, one of the things I love is that you're creating a visual representation of what it is that they want. They can see it. They can almost sort of experience it and almost touch it, like at least in theory. And so like I'm inviting them into that possibility. I'm not trying to sell them anything. We're enrolling them into the possibility of their life changing, of them creating something different than what they have. That's really exciting. So I just sort of underscoring what Elsie was sharing, because that absolutely changed my perspective also when I really got that and understood that that's what was occurring in the conversations, not selling.
It's great. It's great.
Okay. You're coming back. Great.
One of the things good. So here's what we want to do. So as we start moving towards the completion of today's conversation, we want to give you the opportunity to share what do you want as a topic in next week's conversation, right? What are the things you most want help with? What is it? Is it creating more conversations? Is it the connection part? Is it more specifics into the enrollment conversation? Anything you want. We want to get your ideas, and we will then kind of talk amongst ourselves and go, hey, let's do it on this. So post it in the comments. We want to know like what would most help you. Did you already respond, Johnny, to Caitlin's question?
I didn't.
Did you see that question in the
question?
Okay. So I want to respond to that. Yeah. In the call or two after the gap, do you give them a taste of coaching, or treat those calls like a regular coaching session as if they were a client? It's a great question, Caitlin. And my answer is yes. And so after I discover whatever it is that's there in the gap, I'm going to go deep on the 2 or 3, probably more like 2 areas that are the most like uh, coaching ripe, let's call them, right? So I'm going to be like, let's go deep on those. Now, remember, my job in the enrollment conversations is for the highest good. I'm going to go for the greatest level of transformation I can. I am not holding back. I'm like, we're going to go for it. And I tell them that. So at each part of the enrollment process, right? So when I get out of the gap and I go to that next conversation, I go, so we're now in this other conversation. This one's going to have a lot more coaching in it because we already looked at your life. We're going to go deep, right? On those 2 things we talked about. Does that still work for you? And they go, yes. And I go, great. So that's where we're going to start. You're right. I want it to feel like an actual coaching session, but I'm going for it. Because remember, this is the beginning where impact, once someone has paid me and we're in the relationship, it's a little bit different. Of course, I'm going for transformation, but early on, it's like, remember, the needle has to move for someone to go, yeah, I want to talk about what it means to work with you. Like, what are your fees? How do I do this? Right? Ultimately, I don't even want to bring it up. My ultimate is when someone says to me, how do we do this? This has been so helpful. Just tell me what it is. I had someone do that. And of course I shared my fees and they were like, like a cartoon. Woo, woo. And that's okay too, right? Because sometimes that's going to happen. Someone's going to be like, oh my, the big woo, woo, okay. And that's fine. That's a learning too. How do you navigate going, yeah, I get it. This may not be a fit for you. But I want to go for it. So this is where your coaching comes in, right? We each coach differently, right? My background is University of Santa Monica. Johnny's background is University of Santa Monica. Other people is Landmark, Byron Katie, Conscious Leadership. When the deep coaching is where we want to really move the needle with them in their lives, right? And show them what it's like. All right. So we have someone on LinkedIn saying creating more conversations. So I want everyone to know that we see that. If you have others that you want to get into, please let us know. And what I want to say is that if you want the handout, the actual full 4-page handout from today, send Johnny or I an email and we will get it to you. Or if you're watching the recording and you're like, I want the full handout, email us, right? I know our emails are, we've seen them. Ashley's put them up. And the other thing I want to say to you is that if you are here and you are still like, I am still thinking about the CFJ Coaching Success School, we want you to know you can book a call. You'll end up with me or Johnny to slow down and look at your business because we want to determine, can the school help you, right? We don't assume that. It's like, can the school help you where you are right now? So you can book one of those calls. It's a Calendly link. And this is if you're really seriously considering the 2027 school, because we soft launch in September for that. Now, we're going to be back here next week with a total call for you. Idea for the call, the art of inviting. Okay, to a coaching conversation. I love that. How often to invite, who and how to invite. Okay. All right. And then Ashley just posted the Calendly. Yes. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate that. Is there anything, Johnny, that you want to say about the inner and outer, just as a parting comment?
I mean, I guess the thing that I'm learning now over a decade into this is that it's a constant, it's a constant and evolving process. It's something that, some things that were loud, 8-10 years ago are more quiet, and new things are louder. As sort of my life changes, as I learn where my skill set is, like, it's just a process. And, I've developed skills and tools that really help me, and I still have to work with it. So I don't know that there's a sort of magical place where the inner never becomes part of the equation. And it's always a part. It's always part of our process. We always have inner work to do in it. And one of the beautiful things about the coaching profession is, like no matter what's going on the inner, if when I get in front of someone on a coaching conversation, like my intention is present, and that can start to work some of the inner noise out in and of itself. And so it's a beautiful practice, and it's one of the reasons why I love this profession.
Yeah. So I want to share one thing as we
Uh-oh. Well, I don't know what she was going to share, so I can't step in for her there.
I am here.
Okay.
Here. So here's what I want to say as we complete. I want to say, to me, the inner and outer is magic. I want to say that I love getting better at the inner and getting better at the outer. Like, to me, this is one of the most joyful things of this profession, that we can continue to work with ourselves on the inside and the outside and create more effective results in service to people and the transformation of their lives. So I just want to end on that note, that like, this is an incredible thing, this thing we get to learn and grow in. And we will see you here next week, 11 a.m. Pacific, with a whole new topic. Email us if you want the handout, and bravo to you for coming and spending the time. See you later.
Nice job. See you, everybody.